40, 50 feet. Why don't you turn around and let them get a view from there? And
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
For eons, it was mankind's destiny to walk upon the lunar surface, transcending geographical barriers and not only limitations to our world, but space exploration and technology. This destiny began on July 20th, 1969.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This iconic statement was made by Neil Armstrong when he walked on the moon after Apollo 11 had performed a successful lunar landing on July 20th, 1969, as 650 million civilians watched their live television broadcast worldwide, marking the end of the 20-year space race between the United States and its main rival, the Soviet Union, during the events of the Cold War. This accomplishment sparked many space and technological advancements worldwide and influenced people to explore space frontiers further today. Our journey begins with the Allied victory in World War II, with the implication of the U.S. Operation Paperclip, with the defection of Wernher von Braun and his design of the V-2 rocket. Wernher von Braun became one of the founders and the head of NASA, propelling the U.S. to the forefront of the space race ahead of the Soviet Union. The space race was a competition between the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, to demonstrate one's economic, scientific, and technological superiority over the other. Life in the U.S. before the space race was slow-going and without the need for smaller, faster technology, which was dominated by colorless TV, very few communication systems, bulky radios and electronics, slow, inefficient cars, and limited textiles for manufacturing everyday household goods. The space race began with the Russian launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957, a satellite designed to orbit the Earth which came as a distressing surprise to the Americans. In 1958, the Americans launched Explorer 1, initiating their involvement in the competition with their own satellite. The same year, a public order sent by Dwight D. Eisenhower created the federal agency National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or known as NASA, solidifying the United States' commitment to space exploration. Over the next 3 years, spaceflight advanced to manned spacecrafts with the American design of a lightweight manned rocket tested through the use of chimpanzees, and the Soviet victory of the space race with the heavy Vostok 1, the first manned spacecraft to orbit the Earth. On May 5, 1961, a month after Vostok 1, NASA sent the first American into space. Later that May, President John F. Kennedy addressed Congress, challenging NASA to put a man on the moon and return him safely. This address solidified America's decision to put an astronaut on the moon. This later led to the creation of the Apollo program and an increase in NASA's budget and workforce, eventually launching Apollo 8 in 1968, the first manned spacecraft to orbit the moon, before finally launching Apollo 11 on July 16, 1969, the first manned spacecraft to land on the moon and return safely. With the successful completion of the Apollo 11 lunar landing mission, Apollo was recognized by many as a mission that broke geographical barriers and passed frontiers in space exploration and technological advancements, as shown in the Apollo goodwill messages in President Nixon's Spirit of Apollo speech.
The spirit of Apollo transcends geographical barriers and political differences.
Apollo 11 sprung forward technological advancements at an unprecedented rate, affecting everything from communication and transportation to everyday household items. Technology had to become smaller and lighter, which influenced the invention of microelectronics that eventually were used to fulfill other spaceflight missions and inventions today that weren't feasible back then.
We really didn't have the hardware at the point we wanted it, especially in the computers. They didn't have enough core, they weren't fast enough. So that's the biggest problem we had, was the technology was not there. So when we say, what did the craft do for the space program, it's also, what did we do because we needed stuff, the technology, to help what we were doing in Earth. So the computers had to get faster, they had to get bigger, because, I mean, that was the only way we can do it. And you can see how that's impacted medical stuff, because it had to be small.
Experiments in sample collecting that were performed on the moon by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were used to test the capabilities and limitations of an astronaut suit, leading to advancements in suit technology as well as mankind's knowledge of our solar system and our moon. Apollo 11 paved the way for space exploration too. With the success of Apollo 11 came 9 more planned Apollo flights from NASA to deepen mankind's understanding of our moon and our solar system. With Apollo 11 came many consequences and lasting effects. Shortly after the completion of President Kennedy's goal and the immense feat in mankind's history came a sense of American nationalism, pride for one's own country, political beliefs, and ideology over others. The event was subject to conversation worldwide, being covered by many top media outlets around the world. The event also ended the space race, with the United States being one giant leap further than the Soviet Union and demonstrated the capabilities of a free and democratic society over Russia's communist government. Apollo 11 fueled new ways of thinking in media and American culture too, with the immense interest in the Apollo 11 space program caused an increase in sci-fi media, paving the way for an influence in pop culture around the time that transformed into a billion-dollar industry today, including cosplay, comics, books, and movies. Apollo 11 affected America and the Soviet Union in terms of relationship and development. Apollo 11 decreased Soviet morale and was addressed with denial. The Soviets claimed Apollo 11 was an act of American propaganda and was a one-nation race, increasing unease between the two superpowers. The Apollo program acted as a basis for peace for all mankind, bringing the world together by demonstrating the impact mankind could have with the use of collaborative work, and positively affecting America with the technology to create thousands of inventions used worldwide today, impacting the world as a whole with the technology and space exploration of a new era. Apollo 11 influenced many lasting effects also, with the lunar landing acting as a basis for future interest in space exploration and planetary science, with the weight capacity of a spacecraft playing a huge role in decreasing the size of electronics and technology. Plus, the exploration of our solar system brought many inventions used today, like the iPhone, different microwaves, rechargeable hearing aids, and the technology for advancing computers designed to decrease latency and increase computing speed without the need for bigger, bulkier systems. Apollo 11 came with the intended consequence of bringing mankind closer together with the acknowledgement of Apollo 11's feat in the successful moon landing. However, some unintended consequences came in the form of positive technological developments that propelled America further into the modern age, and the inspiration that was involved with the lunar landing worldwide. Apollo 11 influenced many other historical events, such as the launch of the modern-day rocket Artemis 1, which utilized past rocket designs and technological knowledge that the Apollo program paved the way for. Artemis 1 and Apollo are dissimilar in the many different forms of technology and advancements that were discovered over time through the use of Apollo 11's successful feat in history. Without the Apollo 11 moon landing and the era of the space race, mankind would not have the technological knowledge and advancements that are seen and utilized by many today. Apollo broke geographical barriers and past frontiers in space exploration and technological advancements, inspiring creativity and exploration in planetary science and astronomy, pioneering the creation of smaller, faster, lighter computing parts and systems that are utilized in space travel and many household items today that are a result of the research and knowledge obtained by the Apollo program. With the launch of rockets and satellites ushering in an unprecedented era of telecommunications connecting people worldwide, all tracing back to the origins of the space race and the Apollo 11 missions.